What is up, everybody? Welcome in to the Monday edition of the Dream Stream here at FTNDaily.com, presented to you, as always, by Superdraft Daily Fantasy. My name is Zach Graham, a.k.a. Kaweisenberg DFS, and I want to wish all of you, if I didn't talk to you yesterday on the stream, haven't talked to you in chat since the weekend, Happy New Year to everybody. Hope it was a fun, happy, a safe New Year for everybody. I know I got into some hijinks with some buddies over the weekend, then enjoyed some football. And speaking of football, I don't know, man. Are you still a football guy at this point? Because this is Adam Day here at FTN on the NBA side, coming from behind the paywall, doing the game-by-game breakdown over the last hour with Kyle Murray. And now onto the YouTubes and the Twitters for free. It's Adam Pfeifer on the back-to-back here on a Monday, coming off a game that maybe should have been or was, I guess, closer than it should have been. But the Bills got it done. So Adam, I know, is happy today on this Monday. Adam, outside of your Bills getting it done, how you doing?
Yeah, it was a good day for the brand yesterday, right?
Yeah.
Bills won, Singletary balled out, Amon-Ra balled out again.
Yeah.
Now I just need your Steelers to somehow shut down Nick Chubb, and I will be victorious in my Dynasty League. But on Mondays are fun. I knew I'd be on the Dream Stream, but popped up for the back-to-back. So we'll see if I have, like I told Kyle, we'll see if I rest on Tuesday.
Yeah, we were discussing before we went live some of the scenarios that you and I and producer Thomas need to happen here in this Monday night football game. The swan song at Heinz Field for my guy, Ben Roethlisberger. I don't know if it's going to go that well. I think they'll get the win here, Adam, but in terms of slowing down Nick Chubb, I'm not sure that's in the cards tonight, but we'll see.
He can have 100 yards, just don't score.
Yeah, keep him out of the end zone. I'm all for that. You know that. But we'll leave the rest of the NFL talk for the NFL guys who will go live here in about an hour to break down that showdown slate. But we've got a 10-game NBA slate in front of us, Adam. And since you and Kyle did such a great job breaking down the game by game, as always, on that 5 p.m. Eastern stream, Mondays and Wednesdays, I thought we would kind of just maybe hit the ranks, hit the Discord, kind of let the FTN NBA subs guide us, since most of them, I think, just took in an hour of you guys going game by game. So does that sound good to you?
Let's do it.
All right, I'm looking at my ranks here. Before I get into that, I want to acknowledge everybody. I see, see Nariki saying that I look emotional today. Ben's last day at the office. Yeah, I think I look back more fondly on the first, 15 years of the career than the last few. Happy New Year to you, Dello. Happy New Year, HB Cards, reminding me that the Spurs do, in fact, suck. And yeah, when you lose to that Detroit team that they lost to the other night, that is the kind of suck that I want to see the rest of the season out of this team. 27 wins, Adam. 27 wins is the number. Get pop that record and move on. Hopefully get the top pick in the lottery. Let's touch on ranks, and then I got a couple questions here. Both HB Cards asking us to touch on our favorite Houston players. Swervo asking, who the hell is Usman Garuba? We'll get into that in a second. But speaking of the ranks here, Adam, 6'10s currently on DraftKings in Eddie and mine's ranks. They are Nikola Jokic. Surprise, surprise. He's normally a 10. But 12-4, not exactly inexpensive for the reigning MVP. Then the 5 others, more value type plays here. Daniel Tice and Naz Reid, those centers, getting power forward eligibility on DraftKings. And then some guards, Tyus Jones, Shake Milton, and Anthony Simons. So we can kind of get into all those players, the merits that Eddie and I see in those players, and then get your take and maybe some questions from the chat as well. But I did mention Daniel Tice there, so we'll go ahead and jump into the Houston team here. Obviously, we had all our fun Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr., kind of the appetizer to Antonio Brown's, I don't know what to call it, tantrum, show, meltdown, maybe all 3 of those wrapped into one. But those 2 guys, Porter Jr. and Wood, suspended for this game in Philly. Obviously, John Wall still out for this team. Armani Brooks in the protocols. Alperen Şengün, one of my 2 favorite Turkish rookie centers in the league. Alperen Şengün out with that ankle injury. I believe Eric Gordon was ruled in after being questionable to start the day. So your most expensive player on DraftKings for this Houston team is actually tied between Jae'Sean Tate and the rookie Jalen Green at 5'2". But Daniel Tice stands out to me, Adam, especially with Usman Garuba, the rookie out of Spain, into the protocols in the last few minutes. So Daniel Tice, who was already looking appetizing to me at his 3.5 price tag, going to start at center. Probably going to have to play a decent amount of minutes now with Embiid on the other side, and Embiid goes out. Andre Drummond comes in, so not surprised if Tice fouls out tonight, but he's going to get all the minutes he can handle, in my opinion, at 3.5. He's a fantastic value option for me. Where do you stand on Tice? And then kind of break down the rest of the Rockets for me.
Yeah, Tice has to be viewed as one of the best value plays, and I believe he's power forward eligible on both sites, which is very helpful when it's a 10-game slate and you have Jokic and you have Giannis and you have Joel Embiid. So, yeah, and like you mentioned that, like Kyle and I were talking about whether or not Usman Garuba would play like 10 to 12 minutes in this game, and now obviously he's not available. So it's really just Tice and KJ Martin playing minutes at the 4 and the 5 for this team all of a sudden. So yeah, you have to like Tice, and then with Gordon in it doesn't really move me off Jalen Green that much, but it does make it kind of solidified that I prefer Jae'Sean Tate. Last time we saw Jae'Sean Tate with Christian Wood and Kevin Porter Jr. out, isn't that the game he had 70 fantasy points? I know Christian Wood was out in that game, and I'm not saying that Jae'Sean Tate's gonna have 70 fantasy points again, but he does do a little bit of everything for this team. Mm-hmm. So he's obviously a very strong option in that mid range. And then what do you think of Josh Christopher, who we've talked about? I feel like every slate we're on the stream, you and I, Josh Christopher becomes a viable value play. Maybe that's just because the Rockets have been so shorthanded all year. But he obviously gets a bump. Obviously, Armani Brooks has already been out. Now Kevin Porter Jr. is suspended. Obviously, no John Wall. So he stands out as well at, 3,600, I think he was on DraftKings. Yeah. 3,600, shooting guard, small forward eligible.
Yeah, actually, he's a 9 in the ranks right now, Josh Christopher. I think just the combination, you mentioned
He just got news, by the way.
Yeah, Yusuf Nurkic gonna play. I think he tweeted that out himself. It looks like that. He said, at Trailblazers center, Yusuf Nurkic. This is his own account, by the way. Has cleared health and safety protocols. Sources, parentheses, PCR test, tell me I'm expecting to play Monday night against Atlanta. So we'll have some projection updates from Kyle Murray. I will get some updates to the Portland rankings shortly, but getting back to Josh Christopher here. Yeah, I think he's a very strong value on this slate, because even if you're not projecting a blowout, even if it doesn't become a blowout here, you mentioned Armani Brooks being out. Christopher, a guy who's been getting, mid-20s in minutes really over the last 4 games. Varying results there, but I think he's just a really good, solid piece here that becomes even better if this game does, in fact, get out of hand. So I think it's clearly Tice, number 1 for me. Josh Christopher gets the next highest ranking, but I do have interest, like you mentioned, Jae'Sean Tate. I believe in that monster game. Jalen Green was already out with the ankle injury as well, so that was kind of a very bare bones Rockets team, and we're just a notch above that tonight with Jalen Green and Eric Gordon in there. I also think it's acceptable to get to Jalen Green. KJ Martin looks very strong. I think Nwaba probably deserves to be ticked up here to an 8. He's probably going to play some 4 for this team now, as he has over the last couple games. So it's really like kind of who can't you play for me on this Houston team. I don't think I'm going to Garrison Matthews. I believe it's his first game back from the COVID protocols. It's fine to go to Eric Gordon at 5K. I mean, we've talked about all these guys. I like getting all of them if I'm running an MME build. I think it's really like I'm not going to get to your Trevelyan Queens, your DJ Augustines. I don't think those guys have the upside to really consider them on this slate. So it's those front court guys for me first. Tate, Martin, obviously Tice, Nwaba, and then Christopher leads the way for me in terms of who I would get to first from the backcourt. But let's talk real quick here before we go back to the chat and get to another spot. Let's check the other side of this game, because Joel Embiid's 11-4. That's, pretty expensive at a spot where there's a lot of center options tonight. Tobias Harris 8-2, but Tyrese Maxey was ruled out. I believe Matisse Thybulle as well, gone into the health and safety protocols. So you're going to likely get a Shake Milton start here. This is one of the two games that goes off at main slate lock. So we should get this starting lineup pretty soon. If Shake Milton starts at 4-3, I absolutely love him as a value going up against this Houston team where, with Maxey out, there's not a lot of other guys here that can handle the rock as specifically as a true point guard, right? Tyler Johnson could maybe do a little bit of that, but he's in the health and safety protocols. Seth Curry could do a little bit of that, but it's mainly going to fall on the shoulders of Shake Milton. So at 4-3 on DraftKings, he's another one of those guys that got a 10 in the ranks on DraftKings. Are you with me on Shake? Is he as strong of a play for you as he's projecting out for me?
Yeah, I mean, 0.92 fantasy points per minute, 22% usage rate with Maxey off the floor. Should start and play decent minutes. And, it's a pace-up spot for Philadelphia. Philadelphia, I think, is second last in pace. Houston's been top tier in pace all year, so that benefits Shake Milton for sure. It does make Joel Embiid more interesting because it was going to be a little bit tough to get to Embiid on a slate where you have 10 games and you have Jokic and Giannis at the center position, but 36% usage, 1.58 fantasy points per minute, and a 14% assist rate. Joel Embiid leads the team in assist rate with Maxey off the floor. He's tied with Tobias Harris at 14%. So, not only that bump in production, but the fact that, okay, Shake Milton and Matisse Thybulle are out, maybe the game stays closer. And we've seen Embiid go for, 30 or more real points in, four of his last five. So it does make Embiid more appealing than he already was, even though the matchup was incredible. Daniel Tice, KJ Martin, Jayshawn Tate, they have no shot against Joel Embiid. So, but other than that, I probably don't Danny Green. I think is going to be back, so you can't really go to Korkmaz. I mean, Curry's kind of expensive, but he could score 25 real points on 6 threes or something like that. Tobias still doesn't really do it for me on this slate, but again, he obviously gets a bump. But really, it's mostly just Joel and obviously Shake Milton.
Yeah, Danny Green in and starting for this team. So yeah, I'm with you on how we're attacking Philly. Let's go back to the chat here. People pointing out the Nurkic news to me. Beast chiming in and say, we'll put this on the proverbial board between Beast and I. He says he would rank Powell a 10, Norman Powell for the Blazers.
Norman Powell.
Yeah.
I was thinking Dwight Powell for some reason.
Norman Powell, an 8 currently in the ranks. And I guess let's go to that Portland game. One of the late ones here tonight on this 10-game slate, but where I think a lot of the value, certainly since this morning, the value from this Portland game has been the focus of the industry. So this game going off at 10. And let's start with Norman Powell. Lillard and McCollum out here. Yusuf Nurkic, I guess, in, but we will have to wait and see. Maybe a minutes limit on him. Was listed doubtful coming into today, alongside Cody Zeller, also doubtful from that patellar fracture, was also in the COVID protocols. This team will be missing one Cameron McGriff. And if you're saying who, it's okay, because we don't need to worry about Cameron McGriff tonight. But with those two all-star caliber guards out for this team, you're going to see a lot of interest in Norman Powell, in Anthony Simons, and Dennis Smith Jr. today. Let's start with Norman Powell, and I'll give my reasoning for him being an 8. Adam, this is far from the first time that we have seen the Blazers be extremely shorthanded in the backcourt and on the wing this season. And Norman Powell, game log watching, that recency bias is something you want to stray away from in NBA DFS. You got to treat every slate kind of like you should treat a free throw. Each one is its own and it stands alone. But that doesn't mean I can't look back at all of Norman Powell's games he's played this season, 31 of them to be exact, and has cracked 40 3/4 DK points once. So sitting at 6'5", pulling a lot of ownership. He's not a bad play by any means. I just don't think he's as strong as a lot of other people do today, and I'd rather save the money and go to those point guards, being Anthony Simons and Dennis Smith Jr. And Anthony Simons, the cheapest of the three at 4-1. He's coming back. He hasn't played. He's coming back from the protocols, I should say. A short stint in the protocols for him. He last played on the 29th of December. So really shouldn't have lost too much conditioning. Did not appear on the injury report today, even though he has the Q tag on DraftKings. I fully expect him to play in at 4-1. He got a 10 on DraftKings. So talk to me about those two guys. And then Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of in the middle of those two guys salary-wise, and a 2X over there on our sponsor Superdraft. So how are you approaching the Portland backcourt?
Yeah, so I had the same thought process with Simons. Like he's only been out since the 29th. I don't expect him to be limited, even if and I told Kyle this, if I told you right now that Anthony Simons was playing set in stone no more than 25 minutes, he'd still be a really strong play, because he has, with Lillard and McCollum off the floor, a 33% usage rate, and Norman Powell's at 34%. So the usage goes through three players. It's Yusuf, it's Simons, and it's Powell. The difference, though, is Powell's peripherals are just not anywhere to be found. He's under under an 8% rebound and assist rate with both players off the floor. At least Simons has an assist rate over 10%, and we know he's going to be able to take shots in this game. So he obviously stands out. I still think Powell has a really strong floor, and there can be a ceiling there, but Simons obviously stands out the most. And now with the center position, all of a sudden, I don't know how many minutes he plays, but now Nance at almost 6K is kind of tough to get to. Mm-hmm. So it really might just be, especially given how loaded the center position is on a 10-game slate, it really just might be Simons for me. Powell's fine, but I think he's more of a floor play.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's somebody that I would be more apt to slot into a cash game lineup rather than a tournament. I just don't does he have that upside at the price to be optimal at the end of the night? Yes, but to me, it's a much smaller chance than a lot of other guys on this slate. Maybe even in that price range on a 10-game slate, he doesn't seem like somebody that I want to prioritize so heavily at the 6.5 price tag. Tyler Cook to miss a couple weeks. Chris Middleton expected to play today. Yusuf Nurkic. And I'll interject something here NFL-wise, purely procedural. But Antonio Brown, technically still a Buccaneer. They did not officially release AB. So adding Yusuf Nurkic in here to the projections. Let's see. He's 7-1 on DK. Adam, the next place I want to get to here on this slate is Memphis, because we got a question from Nariki about the 10 rank on Tyus Jones. So let's talk Memphis injury report. Memphis playing in 7:30 game, 7:30 tip-off out there in Brooklyn. So looking at the injury report for the Grizz, if I can find it while I'm scrolling here. Here we go. Dylan Brooks, DeAnthony Melton, John Conchar all remain out in the health and safety protocols. Shaq Buchanan, Xavier Tillman out, Zaire Williams doubtful, and Sam Merrill no longer with the team. But the big change between last game and this one is Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, also being added to the health and safety protocols. So if we go back and look at Memphis's last time out, which was a 13-point victory against my Spurs on New Year's Eve, you saw a very condensed 9-man rotation here. You got 26 minutes out of Steven Adams, 24 out of Kyle Anderson, 31 out of Jaren Jackson. So that's kind of your front court rotation. Killian Tilly played 24. Brandon Clark played 23. They were able to kind of mix and match guys against that weak Spurs team without DeJounte Murray in that game. But you take Kyle Anderson's 24 minutes out of there, and again, lost some time at the end of the game, I think, because it was out of hand. The Spurs, no starter played past the 8-minute mark, So it was blowout time at the end. I think there was upside for Kyle Anderson to get more minutes and a lot of these other starters. But now that Kyle Anderson, he would have been on pace for about 30, 31 minutes. You remove those minutes from the rotation. I don't think you're replacing those minutes with certainly not Santi Aldama. I don't think Xavier Sneed's getting in there. And you look at Tyus Jones, who played 20 minutes before getting all 8 minutes of blowout run. I think this game, especially with LaMarcus Aldridge out on the other side for the Nets, I think this game could go relatively small. Should be no issue for Jaren Jackson to match up against somebody like Nick Claxton. And I think the Grizzlies push smaller here. So to me, it's a big bump for a guy like Tyus Jones, who has played alongside Ja Morant in the past to find fantasy success. And just in terms of a point per minute guy, Tyus Jones, acceptable, 21 minutes per game in his 36 appearances this year, 19 fantasy points per game. And you see it against the Spurs. Again, tougher matchup here tonight against Brooklyn, but played those 28 minutes, 34 DK points. And we've seen him in relief plenty. So the long way of saying, I think you're getting close to 30 minutes from Tyus Jones tonight. And in this matchup against Brooklyn at 4K, I really like him as a value. After that long-winded explanation, Adam, what are your thoughts on Tyus Jones?
Am I reading this game log correctly? Tyus Jones played the final 16 minutes of that game?
Yeah.
He played the final 4 minutes of the third and then played the entire fourth quarter.
Yep, he did indeed.
Is that sustainable? Because I agree. Like if you're looking to replace the minutes that are left behind from Anderson, Brooks, and Melton, Tyus Jones over Brandon Clark and Tilly, who will play both probably 23 to 26 minutes, but like Tyus Jones has a better chance, I think, of playing 30 to 32, like you said, and he has the ceiling in fantasy. So I do agree, but I just wonder how sustainable that stretch where he played the final 16 minutes of that game is. Especially if the game's a little bit more competitive throughout. But still, I do think he's in play, and I think he offers more ceiling than Tilly. Who do you think starts for Anderson? Tilly?
I think it's Tyus. I was just about to ask you the same thing.
So what? Ja, Bane? Well, Ja, Jones,
Tyus,
Bane, and then Jackson and Adams.
Yeah.
I mean, if he starts, that changes everything. Not everything, but
yeah. I mean, that's just what I'm expecting. Would
you rather have him off the bench, though, and get more usage? Or does it just not matter because, like you said, we've seen him play alongside Ja this year?
Yeah, I think I want him to get the start. I don't think I would change my opinion on him being such a strong value today if he comes off the bench, but I've been approaching this as if he would get the start.
Okay.
I really think your other option would be Brandon Clark instead of Tilly for me. Those are the two options.
Kyle and I talked about it on the first stream. Even if Tilly did start, and if you project Tilly and Clark to maybe Tilly plays 25 and Clark plays 23 minutes, Clark has a higher ceiling. So
yeah. Well, so I hope let me scroll here and see if I got any reactions on that. Yeah. So here's Jake chiming in, saying that Culver isn't even being given a single minute by most projection sites. I know. Thoughts on Culver tonight? He's been a point per minute player, and that's a good point. When he's gotten out there, Jarrett Culver's produced at a fine rate. I guess Jake and Adam, since we are live together, my thing with Jarrett Culver is Taylor Jenkins all of a sudden going to give Jarrett Culver massive minutes here? I think he didn't even get in when Dakota Mathias, Tyrell Terry, those guys got in for the last minute of the Spurs blowout, and the fact that Culver's not getting in there, he's been in the health and safety protocols as well. I could see him getting out there, but I don't think it's more than 12 minutes for a guy.
I just don't think you have to
Jarrett
go
Culver.
there.
Yeah, but I think the point is that if Culver does get out there, it takes away from Clark, it takes away from Tyus, etc. So I don't see a minute's upside on him. I could see him grabbing Xavier Sneed's 6 minutes from last game and picking up a couple of those 25 or 24, minutes that Kyle Anderson left.
I think that's exactly the minutes he does get. Whatever Sneed got last game, was it 6 in the fourth quarter when the game was out of hand?
Yeah. So it's not something that I'm really worried about at this point, but we are, I think, going to be able to have a clearer picture once we do get that starting lineup. Speaking of starting lineups, Wizards We'll start Beal, KCP, Denny Avdia getting back in there, Kyle Kuzma, and Daniel Gafford.
Sixers starting five just dropped to Shake Milton is not starting.
Really?
Danny Green, Tobias Harris, Embiid, Korkmaz, and Curry.
Okay. Well, we'll shake the rankings around a little bit, but I still do think,
pun.
Yeah, unintended actually. I think that's going to bring him down off.
That's
10,
interesting.
Probably still a 9 though, because I think again, if you think this game blows out, and I know there's been a lot of back and forth, especially with the Philadelphia contingent that we have in the chat about how Philly doesn't blow anybody out, and on the other side, our Houston contingent also substantial here in the NBA chat saying that Houston should get blown out by certain teams, and they just don't. So I mean, I think all signs are pointing to this game just still being a Philadelphia rout here at home. I guess that's another thing you could bring up is that Philadelphia over the last couple of years have not been the best home team in the league. Let's see. Hugo asking, has anyone done a legitimate deep dive into player performance coming out of protocols this season? Seems like we have enough samples. That would be a good thing to look into. If I had the extra, 6 to 8 hours to go through all that data, I would. So maybe
Rocket Starters too just launched.
Okay, nice.
Garrison Matthews. Wow, look at this. Garrison Matthews, Jayshawn Tate, Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, and Daniel Tice. That is an incredibly small lineup.
It is indeed. The first thing that says to me is that bumps Tobias Harris a little bit, because who is guarding Tobias Harris here?
Tate?
Yeah, I mean, I think Tobias, it's still going to be tough for me to play him on DraftKings. That is, I think he's 8-2.
Yeah.
But he's getting an extra 25%, I think, on Superdraft there, 1.25x. So I'd rather play him there on our sponsor, Superdraft. Of course, just like Buddy Hield the other night. I was on with Joe on Sunday, and I said, we're definitely not talking Buddy Hield on this slate, and then moved on, and Buddy Hield smashed. I say, the one guy I'm not considering is Garrison Matthews, and he gets out there back into the starting lineup. So we'll make some more adjustments to the ranks. Some Pistons news coming in here. All expected. Trey Lyles, Rodney McGruder, Saban Lee, Josh Jackson, Killian Hayes, and Cade Cunningham, all available to return and play here tonight for the Pistons. Hassan Whiteside also ruled out with that concussion for the Jazz. So with that, let me turn back to the chat. We'll get a new direction here, and then I will update the ranks. 57 Lions chiming in asking us, how many guys above 9K? I'm assuming he did say on DK. Are we trying to fit in a GPP lineup? How many guys above 9K are you trying to fit in a GPP lineup? Basically, are you going more balanced or more of a stars and scrubs approach? And for me, Adam, I think it's a stars and scrubs type day. But there's plenty of good plays, very solid plays in that mid-range. So I think I'm really looking for certainly at least one, but I think two more often than not in a lot of my lineups tonight if I was building to play. We'll leave Cade out. I don't think you can really go back to hardly any of those Detroit guys.
No.
But you've got Vooch, DeRozan, Zach LaVine, all those Chicago guys, LaMelo Ball, Jonas Valanciunas, Donovan Mitchell, John Morant, Jimmy Butler, Bradley Beal, Luka, Trey, KD, Harden, Embiid, Steph, Giannis, and Jokic. So there's a lot of different options here. Out of that 9K and above, give me your favorite three.
Are we so?
Let's factor in price and position. Like if you're building,
because I was gonna say I kind of want to just say okay, like Jokic, Giannis, sure, like obviously Harden, like those guys. But like if we're not counting those obvious studs, I love Beal. I talked about this. He's been close. We've seen more of that upside we've seen from Beal in the past. Whenever Dinwiddie's been out of the lineup, he's averaging like 90 touches per game over the last two with Dinwiddie out and like 8.5 minutes of possession. And that team right now, Washington, they don't have a lot of players to handle the ball, so it's a ton of Bradley Beal. So I love Beal. Then I would honestly go John Morant. Just Joe wrote about it in the First Look article today. His usage and metrics and everything with Melton and Brooks off the floor, it's very impressive, and he's been good. So I would probably go Ja. And then the third, That's tough.
Mm-hmm.
Luka's so interesting at under 11K. I know he was limited in the last game, plus it's a back-to-back. But no Porzingis. Luka still, he had 7 turnovers, played 31 minutes, and still had like 40-plus fantasy points, triple-double, almost triple-doubled. It's just so hard to go against Jokic. It's just so difficult.
I mean, for me, it's Jokic is going to fit into my top 3 there, just because there is no issue finding the salary to get up to him at 12.4. Obviously, the 44.25 is not what you're looking for out of Jokic in that last game against Houston, but
25
minutes. Yeah, so again, the context of what Jokic
if you see Jokic
doing,
score 40 to like 47 fantasy points, just assume he didn't reach 30 minutes.
Yeah. So, I mean, looking here at a game where I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but when I saw Dallas favored, even at home here with Porzingis out, like they're 3-point favorites still here. But when these games are close, Jokic is playing 35 plus minutes. And we know that he projects really on a night-to-night basis for 60 plus. And I would not be surprised here to see, with him going up against the likes of Dwight Powell, Maxi Kleber, Moses Brown might get out there and try to, he will foul him probably multiple times in the few minutes that he's out there. I just, there's nobody in the league can guard Jokic, but certainly not on this Dallas team. So he's my number 1 there. I have a lot of interest in James Harden. He's been fantastic the last 4 games, playing 40 minutes.
Just a tad.
Yeah, playing 40 minutes in each of those games. 2 of those games, obviously, KD was out, but even with KD in over those 2 games, a 33% usage for Harden. So he seems to have played himself into shape as he does most years. And this is going to be the last time before Kyrie comes back next game that we're really going to be able to use him. So you shouldn't factor that into your your choice on whether or not to roster Harden tonight, but just something I've been thinking about. I like getting to Harden at 11.3, but I don't think he makes my top 3. I think Beal, as you talked about, we've seen him get back kind of to the old Bradley Beal, sans Russell Westbrook, sans John Wall the last couple years. With Dinwiddie out, double-doubles.
The assists have been crazy. 17 is obviously not happening again.
Yeah, but I think you could see a double-double with assists again tonight.
Like anytime he can get up to 8 to 10 assists, because he has a chance to score 40 real points any night, especially with Dinwiddie and Montrezl Harrell out. That's massive. And I mentioned the touches per game. So, Beal is a huge reason why, despite how good he's been and how good he is, Beal's a huge reason why, Trae Young's not exactly high up on my radar. Any of the Chicago players, we talk about this every slate, but Lonzo's back. Lonzo's not a high usage player, but he takes peripherals away and he'll handle the ball more than, say, Kobe White would. So it's I think the top 3 players from the Bulls, DeRozan, Levine, and Vucevic, they set up as really awesome tournament plays, especially at home as huge favorites against a bad Orlando team. But it's just tough to get to any of them when Beal's there. I like Beal over, I think, Butler. I already mentioned I like Beal over Trae Young. I might like Beal over Curry, honestly, for the $1,000 difference. Dinwiddie being out is massive.
Yeah, and so then I think my third guy, it was really close between Ja and LaMelo, but I think I'm going LaMelo. I like stacking up Beal and LaMelo in lineups.
Yeah, I was gonna say that game's a lot more stackable. So
yeah, and the 34-point blowout that the Charlotte Hornets suffered at the hands of the Suns last night. Obviously, LaMelo a letdown there, only 23 minutes, but with this game projected to stay close, the Wizards 2-point home favorites, highest over/under on the slate, 230.5. I really like getting to LaMelo. He's played 2 games against this Washington team this season, averaged 37 minutes across those 2, but 53 DK points, and we would be very happy with 53 at 9.5. Tonight, I think there's upside for more there. So let's turn back to the chat here. Mighty Ham's asking, what do we project Diallo for? I assume he's talking Hamidou Diallo, and I'll tell you this.
Not
Hams,
70.
It's not enough for his price. I actually don't know off the top of my head.
50 minutes last game. He played 45, then the entire overtime.
Yeah, I think he sat for 30 seconds in the first half, and he was well on his way. Even at 7.3, I think that's kind of the cheapest price point for him across the industry on FanDuel.
Let me ask you this, because Kyle and I like brushed over it. Like, can you play a Pistons player tonight other than maybe Garza? And even then, it's just like,
yeah, even then, I don't think I can get there with Trey Lyles back and the matchup and the price increase on Luka Garza. He ain't getting 20 and 14 on the Bucks. It's just not happening. Like on the Spurs, yeah,
he will play in a blowout though. But other than that, like,
there's just not. But the minutes just won't be there. Like 39 and 40 was the bare bones squad. He had Check Diallo backing him up. So it's no Pistons for me tonight.
Tim Frazier starting again at point guard, so
the Magic,
decent
Frazier,
value.
Harris, Franz, Carter Jr., and Bamba, same 5 that they started yesterday. Hornets will start Ball, Rozier, Hayward, Bridges, and Plumlee, so no surprises from the Hornets either. Chris Meany, good to see Meany in the chat there saying go easy on those Mavs. You always got to pick on little brother a little bit, and I love the Mavs. The Dirk championship was my favorite non-Spurs championship to cheer for. So I got a soft spot for the Mavs. I definitely prefer the Mavs to the Rockets. Must be something about those Houston fans. Let's see. My guy Steelers fan, a big night for us, asking Morris or Gafford. And I think that's a great question. So you've got Daniel Gafford here, who was, I thought, well on his way to a massive revenge game against Chicago last time, but foul trouble and game script or matchups, whatever you want to call Wes Unseld Jr., not playing Daniel Gafford a ton in the second half. He had 33 DK points in his 20 minutes in that game. Still the only true center available for this Wizards team. So at 6K, I think he's very solid going up against this Charlotte team for all the reasons we talked about, just with the game environment, the high total, and the close spread. And then Marcus Morris, my best friend, sitting at 6K as well, small and power forward eligible. He did sit out the Clippers last game against the Nets, was technically available, but sat as a DNP CD for rest. He's been fantastic, both from a real life hoops and fantasy standpoint. The Clippers not getting a ton of wins lately, but Marcus Morris over 20 real points in 5 straight games, doubled in 2 of those, and has not scored below 35.5 DK points in any of those 5 games. Going up against Minnesota here tonight, no Hartenstein, no Zubac. We know Serge Ibaka can't play a ton of minutes. I love Marcus Morris tonight. I think it's positional. Like if you like, I want to have Jokic in the lineup if I'm just building one. So that to me would probably lean more towards Morris as my answer, but I love, like, both of those guys are so strong tonight. Do you have a lean?
Can you play them both? Like they're honestly in the mid-range, maybe my 2 favorite mid-range plays the entire slate. Gafford with Harrell and Dinwiddie off the floor, 1.12 fantasy points per minute, 30% rebounding rate, and he's had, I think the last 3 or 4 games it's been nearly 20 rebounding opportunities per game. So with Harrell out, when Harrell's active for this team, we usually see Gafford 26 minutes, 27 minutes, but we've seen a couple games he played 36 minutes recently with Harrell out. Like, he can play 33 to 35, and given how efficient he is on a permanent basis, he can be like a top 5 center on the slate in terms of fantasy points, and I wouldn't be shocked. But then you have Morris, who with George out and Kennard out, and obviously the front court banged up, like, he has, I think, a 29% usage rate the last 3. He's been shooting a ton. You mentioned the scoring. That is really close. Like with Morris, you're getting more of the guaranteed volume and shots, and with Gafford, you're getting the guaranteed kind of just like Gafford's taking maybe 7-8 shots, but he's probably gonna hit 6, 7, 8 of them, because he's just everything's right at the basket. So that's close. I would lean Marcus Morris because he is not like Marcus Morris doesn't have a path through it. He pick up 4 fouls in 12 minutes and be limited to 20 minutes in a game. And if if both players had a foul trouble, I think Gafford's ceiling for minutes is like 33, 34, and we've seen Morris's can be 38 right now with the way this Clippers team is shaping up.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I love them both though.
Yeah, I think and if you can get if you're building a more balanced lineup, I think those are the guys.
Yeah, those are the 2 players you look at.
Yeah. So getting Yusuf Nurkic into the ranks here. No word yet on how much he's going to play, and a couple other updates in here as well. I'm going to get to the Wizards here in a second. We'll go back to the chat where Cody J, we've got guys. I tend to save some screenshots myself. Cody J flipping the script on me saying, interesting development, pointing out that I don't know how long ago this was, but I remember it. He said, fuck Dallas in general. And then I agreed with him. So, I got to play both sides here in the Texas triangle. So, what can you do, Cody? It's a day-to-day thing. T Panthers chiming in here. He's playing Showdown, one of the Showdown enthusiasts that we have here, saying in the large field GPP, Charlotte, Washington Showdown. He's got Beal at captain 15.9, Ball at 15,000, or Gafford at 9.9. He says his lean is currently Gafford. So with that information, do you have any advice for T Panthers there in the Showdown?
What was the question again? I was reading something. I apologize.
He's saying large field GPP, captain for Charlotte and Washington. He can get Beal at 15.9, LaMelo Ball at 15 flat, or Dan Gafford at 9.9, and he's leaning Gafford currently.
I like it.
I
don't think Charlotte has players really that are going to worry me about Gafford getting into foul trouble either. So,
I think you're going to be able to. I want to fit in as many of those top guys as I can, and Gafford, who projects really well. If you can save that 5,000, it looks like at captain, maybe that helps you get Beal and LaMelo in, and still not have to completely punt one of those spots. Throw 84 asking here, Shake, Simons, or Tyus. Good to see Throw. I don't think I've seen him around the NBA streets for a little bit. My answer there would be Simons.
Simons, if Shake started, it'd be at least a conversation for me, but just with him coming off the bench, it even solidifies it more. But even if he started, it still would have been Simons for me.
Indeed. Jake in here saying, thoughts on Okongwu? Does he get time at the 4? That is a good question, and honestly, one that I hadn't thought about too much, given the fact that I believe Danilo Gallinari is back for this team. And if Cam Reddish plays, I think there's more ways for Coach McMillan to shift the lineup around where you wouldn't have to run.
Yeah, especially against Portland, who are going to have Nance and Covington at the 4.
Yeah, and man, I got to tell you, though, I had a strong 8 ranking on Okongwu, 3K flat. He's got the forward eligibility. So I thought he was a sneaky value, but I got to tell you, man, I liked it a lot more without the prospect of Yusuf Nurkic being in there guarding him, or on the other side, Okongwu having to guard Nurkic. Especially without those guards, you would think Nurkic going to be a pretty high usage guy for the minutes that he's out there. So for me, Okongwu still a sneaky value. Again, the flat men with the power forward eligibility. I'm fine playing that, but not somebody that I would get probably in my first 5 lineups or so. But I know Jake typically a 150 maxer. So yeah, I would have some Okongwu for sure. Would make sure to use him at that forward spot. There's Shazam. I've been waiting for Shazam to come in here and tell me to fuck the Spurs tonight. Let's see. Question here on FanDuel. One center spot, obviously, over there on FanDuel. So, Adam, you've got Jokic, obviously up top, 11-5. And then Daniel Gafford is all the way down at 6-1, but both center only. So, would you get up to Jokic, or would you play Gafford for the value?
I just can't go against Jokic.
Yeah, I mean, I think in one lineup I would try to get Jokic in there. There's enough values at other positions to get him in there comfortably. But I do think he says if you go Gafford, he says he can get Morant, Beal, and LaMelo in there very comfortably.
That's
so I think
sick.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're in a specifically a single entry contest, I think I would say run both, because I think there's if you're in a contest where you can multi-enter, I think this is a day where, I mean, I was always a multi-entry player, but there's just so many good options where you can make lineups that, before 7 p.m. Eastern look
I'm in trouble.
Pretty sexy. What's that?
Still need Chubb under 10.7 and Kareem Hunt's inactive. So it's been a fun season for me.
Hey, I'll call up Keith Butler, call up Mike, and tell him, hey,
just keep him out of the end zone. He can have 100 yards.
Hey, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Austin Hooper, David Njoku score all the points.
Donovan
right?
Peoples-Jones is definitely getting tackled at the 1 after a 40-yard catch now. Lock it in.
Oh man, yeah, Denny Avdia, Anthony pointing out birthday narrative there for Denny. So if you're a narrative guy, there you go. Steelers fan saying last one, Christopher or Korkmaz. He does have Jalen and Tice. That's close, man. I think I'm leaning Korkmaz there, kind of as the run back.
I'm going Korkmaz, especially like if he was like. Kyle and I talked about it when it looked like Danny Green was going to play. I was like, maybe you can go to Korkmaz, and Danny Green was active, and then now Korkmaz is starting. So I think given the run back and the fact that Korkmaz is starting, I would lean Korkmaz.
Just updating the ranks here for that Wizards starting lineup. A couple questions here. Shazam saying Tyus and Wendell Carter. Over Shake and Tobias now with Shake not starting. This is on Yahoo in a GPP.
What if Tyus doesn't start, though?
What's that?
What if Tyus doesn't start either then? Because then you have Shake not starting and Tyus not starting. That's close.
To be honest, I think I like Wendell better than Tobias tonight. Wendell Carter, obviously, revenge came for him. The team that drafted him, 3 years ago, and traded him to the Magic. They've played once already this year. Let me pull that back up.
Why do I remember? Why do I feel like he went off that game?
Oh, dude, he did. Yeah. And I don't think
he had 48 fantasy points, 26 and 10, 48 fantasy points.
Yeah, in a game that they lost by 40. So
yeah, I don't have the exact score in front of me, but yeah,
I think Wendell's a fine play tonight. I would slightly lean Tyus and Wendell with Shake not starting. Hugo saying, after the 76ers starters, would you go Shake Milton now, 4-3, or would you go ahead and roster Nasir Little from that Portland game at 4-7? I think for me, it's close, man. Like, Shake's still a great value. The matchup is great.
I would.
I'm a big Nas Little fan, though.
Depends how many minutes, like, because now you have. I would still go Milton.
Yeah, I'm going to lean Nas, leaving that salary for later as well. A little bit of flexibility on this 10-game slate with, 3 games going off at 10 p.m. Eastern or later. So there we go. We get a little lunch bet going, Adam, or what? Shake Milton versus Nas Little?
Yeah, let's go. Lock it in.
All right, there we go. Anthony saying, we got our tissues ready for tonight. It's Ben Roethlisberger's last game. Yeah, I've shed enough tears just watching that fat fuck play over the last couple of years. Naraki saying, pivoting from Tice to KJ. Thoughts on that?
I don't hate it because Tice will be pretty popular, I would say. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I think KJ Martin has a better chance of playing 35 minutes. So I have no problem with it.
Yeah, I think especially if the rest of your lineup is projecting to be fairly chalky.
Yeah.
I like that pivot a lot. And I don't think Adam, I don't think I'm against stacking the two either because they're so short on bodies with Garuba out now. So yeah, I don't hate that at all. Nariki, Kruger's asking anyone on LaMelo? Guilty. Tommy saying Gafford still too cheap at 6K? I believe so. A little bit of meat left on the value bone there for Gafford. Everybody else, we are 5 minutes, a little under 5 minutes from main slate lock here, so keep firing in any questions. Doug saying Fat Ben makes me feel like I'm a world-class athlete. Yeah, man, the one play from, I don't remember what week it was, but when he fell down after throwing that little pitch, oh God.
Which time? Every time he gets out of the pocket, it looks like he has to use the bathroom. It's insane.
Yeah.
Well, and yet it was it feels like it was 5 years ago, but yet he came into Buffalo in week 1 and somehow won. Nothing to do with him. Literally nothing.
Yeah, that was the old Steelers defense when they are fully healthy, a force to be reckoned with. But alas, I don't think.
Can you just stop the run tonight? That's all I ask.
Yeah, hey, they have a much better chance when old TJ Watt is out there. So we'll get back to hoops here for the last 3 minutes. Jay Wynn asking Nance or Jimmy buckets on Superdraft. You've got Nance 1.75x, and you're getting Jimmy, I think, with the 15% boost. Jimmy, yeah, 1.15x. I think it's Jimmy for me now.
Same.
With Nurkic in. But I wrote Nance up in the Superdraft article today. I was on him pretty heavy at that multiplier before Yusuf Nurkic ruled himself in. And I would say this too, like he was listed doubtful before the game. So even though he self-reported himself as active, like keep your eye on news. Not the craziest thing if he does in fact sit tonight. Let's see. Seems like stacking this Hornets-Wizards game is what everybody's going to be doing tonight. Yeah, I mean, there's some very attractive plays in that Hornets and Wizards game. If I'm running one lineup, I don't have an issue stacking that game up. But again, on these 10-game slates in this COVID NBA, definitely beneficial to push some salary back and have that flexibility for any late news. Good riddance to Big Ben. I agree, Easy B. I'm obviously a big fan of his on the field, not so much off of it. Guy can't even ride a motorcycle, for God's sakes. Triple J or Marcus Morris. It's Marcus Morris. Same. For me. I think you've got a very similar ceiling there tonight. Maybe Triple J has a slightly higher ceiling, but I feel much safer rostering Marcus Morris in this matchup against the Timberwolves.
I think Triple J's ceiling, though, is going to depend on him getting, a statistic that is tough to repeat and project, and that's blocks. Like he kind of reminds me of John Collins, with the way he's playing next to Steven Adams, gets a ton of rebounds, and he's usually in that 6, 7, 8 rebound range. So it's I don't know. I just much rather play Marcus Morris.
Yeah, it's not something that I say lightly, obviously, with my disdain for both Morris brothers. But try to take that out of the picture when we're talking about who we're going to play on a slate. And Marcus Morris projects as a pretty great play for me tonight, even at that $6K price tag on DraftKings. 2v2 here from my guy, Romulus. It is Beverly and Naz Reid, or Dan Gafford and Tyus Jones. It's slightly the second one for me, but let's talk a little bit here. I know we're kind of running out of time a little bit, less than 2 minutes here until lock, but Timberwolves and Clippers, kind of two teams we didn't get to a ton. Naz Reid is one of those guys at a 10 power forward eligible in the DK rankings. 1.55x on Superdraft. Not as excited about him there. Also center only on Superdraft. Not interested in him there. But man, with that 4.8 power forward eligibility, he went off last game. When he's getting back to these full minutes with Karl Anthony Towns out, 4.8 is way too cheap for him. I absolutely love Naz Reid tonight. And Beverly, I think, strong too. But I slightly lean that Gafford and Tyus Jones side. Marcus Morris or Norman Powell for you?
Is it weird if I want to go Morris?
Nope. I would also lean Morris. I think they project very similarly in their respective spots tonight. 20 seconds.
Would you have still had Morris prior to the Portland news we got?
That's a good question. It may have been slightly closer, but again, I've been taking this, I've been backing off of Norman Powell a bit today compared to the field. So I may have still said Morris. Certainly didn't help Norman Powell, in my opinion, to get Yusuf Nurkic back out there. And we are at lock. So we'll pull up some ownership here, go through that. And then again, 15 minutes from now, turn it over to those NFL guys, breaking down the showdown slate.
Dude,
Browns.
Chubb's ripping off a 40-yard run first drive of the game, too. Just lock it in.
Dude, I know nobody wants to hear about our fantasy teams, but indulge me here for a second after lock. I'm in the 53-man league. I've told you about that league, showed you my roster. You called me a lunatic or something like that for being in a league with 53-man rosters. But, a lot of my best friends in there, Been to the title game 7 straight years, Adam, but only 2 titles. I have a 16-point lead going into tonight. I got Deontay and the Muth going up against Claypool and Minka Fitzpatrick.
You won. Relax.
Dude, I don't want to hear it. I was up like 60 going into the game last night. I had Dalvin going up against freaking Rodgers and AJ Dillon. And now I'm only up 16. I told you before, I've spent money on stuff already, like too much money. I'm tempting the fantasy gods to spike the football on my best friends when the buzzer sounds tonight. I have my fingers crossed and something else clenched until that final buzzer goes off. I'll stop talking about my fantasy football teams now. And we'll talk about some of this ownership from the first 2 games that locked. But before we do, if you're catching us on YouTube or Twitter for free, welcome in if you're not a subscriber here yet. But I would encourage you to come check us out here at FTN Daily. The NBA package has a lot to offer. As somebody who had, prior to being on this side of the screen, been in multiple different DFS communities, and I truly believe, not just because they pay me to say it, that FTN is the best one around, but specifically for the NBA package. You're going to get the access to the state-of-the-art optimizer with the proprietary player and ownership projections from Kyle Murray, all kinds of tools. We got, your on-off splits, Stefano's advanced DVP tool. That's one of my favorites. Alex Blickel's game environment tool. That's a new one that's been helping a ton of subs over the first few months of the season. You get access to the FTN Daily Premium Discord chat. You get rankings from Fast Eddie Fear and myself, all that every single day, every slate for the NBA season. And the pricing starts at $49.99 per month, but you can use the code FTNTV, all one word, and that gets you 15% off every month of your subscription. So you get that 15% off first month you join, and then that 15% discount will be applied for the length of the season. So if you subscribe to NBA all the way through the end of the NBA Finals, 15% off. Again, that code is FTNTV to get that discount. So come try us out for the first month. I think you'll stick around after that first month. And if you do join, get in that Discord, tag Adam, tag myself, let us know that you joined, because we would be glad to have you. I know we've seen a couple new names, new faces popping up in the Discord over the last week or two, and it's been fun welcoming them into the community. Adam, I've got the ownership here. So with the 2 games that locked, it was Charlotte and Washington, Houston and Philly. Give me your guess on who the highest owned player on DraftKings is.
Tice.
Daniel Tice, number 1, 51% for Daniel Tice, the former Celtic. And he guessed at number 2. We'll go till you miss here.
Beal.
Bradley Beal, number 2. Bradley Beal coming in 36%. And can you round out the podium? Who is the 3rd highest owned player from these 2 games?
I will say, I think this is wrong, but I'll say Jalen Green.
Jalen Green, number 7, 10.3%.
Damn.
Any secondary guess on number 3?
I feel like it's a Rocket.
It's not. It is somebody we talked about a lot, though.
Okay. Is it LaMelo?
It is not. It is Daniel Gafford, and
I'm an idiot.
Daniel Gafford, 28%.
You know what I just did? I said
that?
Daniel Tice, and I thought after I said Daniel Tice that I said Daniel Gafford.
Yeah.
Because I talk about Gafford every stream. The fact I didn't get that is embarrassing, because I talk about Gafford every stream. Yeah, that makes way more sense.
Coach Taylor Jenkins rubbing it in my face. Not Tyus Jones, not Brandon Clark, Killian Tilly.
I told you.
You did indeed. And I'm sure somewhere California cool, loving that Killian Tilly doesn't even have to come off the bench tonight. He's getting the start. Morant, Bane, Jackson Jr., and Adams. The Nets will start Harden, Mills, Bembry, KD, and Claxton. There's the Kareem Hunt news. And Myles Garrett saying that he just wants to celebrate with Ben Roethlisberger tonight. How'd that go last game, Miles? A couple questions before we get out of here. Easy V asking, we talked about Morris or Powell. Javi saying NAW or Tyus. It's close. Still give me Tyus. Still
We
give
don't
me
have
Tyus.
we don't have the Brandon Ingram news yet either, right?
We do not. Which could again, I'm gonna lower Tyus here to a 9 because he's not starting. And NAW certainly a fine value. I would still prefer Tyus absent the Ingram news. Anthony, don't you put that evil on me. I've already rerun the Claypool 4-touchdown game in my head. I know that's coming. I don't need you to tell me that he goes off tonight. All right, everybody. I know we've got 8 games still to come to lock here on this main slate. We will be in chat all the way throughout the night, updating rankings, updating projections, talking any late news. But we will now give way a little 8-minute lull in the streams, but 7:15 Eastern, head on over there if you're an NFL subscriber. If you're not, that FTN TV promo code gets you 15% off NFL as well. Some of the best NFL minds, certainly showdown minds in the business. D-Bro and Tenacious G Jones taking you up to lock of Browns and Steelers. Adam, great to be with you as always on a Monday. I love our new Monday tradition. I'm not sure you love the back-to-back, but you are an Iron Man. Appreciate you being with me. Appreciate everybody who tuned in. Appreciate the chat participating in our kind of chat-oriented show, letting chat take control of the steering wheel. It was fun. So for Adam, I'm Zach. Shout out Thomas, our producer extraordinaire behind the glass. Good luck, everybody. Go Steelers. And as always,
let's get these beans.